Hello, it's Jonathan. Okay, so I've got some good news, I got some bad news. I thought first of all we'll start off with the X-date and then we'll move into the Bitcoin price because everyone wants to know what's happening in crypto, so we'll keep following it, we'll keep going along with that. First of all, X-date. So what happened, what went wrong, why was I thinking one thing and something else happened? Look, I think we did pretty well. I think we pinpointed some areas in the market where the market would change direction. One thing I want to point out before we move on is I tried to show you one thing that happens when we get a seasonal trend change. Now, seasonal trend change can be pretty much anything. It's when the seasons of something change. For example, you go from winter into spring, into summer, into autumn, and so forth. The trend changes as the seasons change. And in the case of the markets, in the case of people, in the case of nations, etc., a trend can change for that specific thing that we're looking at. Now, one thing I did tell you right before this trend change was to occur, as I said, look, you look at all the negative news that's happening in the markets right now, all the things surrounding, the X-date of the US Congress, cryptocurrency, there's things happening, everyone's like starting to get panicky, the FUD is what they call it. It was pretty high right before our trend changed. And that's something I wanted to show you, and I highlighted this seasonal trend change. And yes, we use the seasons in itself, and I've talked about it in the past. So go back to prior videos where I've actually spoken about the equinox and the solstice and how you can actually use this to yourself. You have to start to jot down what's happening in the markets, and then you have to look at the trend changes and just see how things have actually changed. And then you'll start to sort of develop your own understanding of this. I can't really explain it any more than I've tried to demonstrate it to you, because you got to see it to believe it. I've tried to show it to you, but if you hadn't seen it yet, we got to keep just trying, because eventually it'll click for you. Okay, eventually it'll click and you'll start to see exactly what I see. And in this instance, I'm talking about seasonal trend changes. So this is the X-date. We had this marked up. I actually published this 21st of May because we were looking to see what was going to occur around our X-date, which is our internal X-date. I was looking for a low at the time. I wanted the market to hit a low around this point here in May, move up, and then hit a low in June, and then again later in June. So I think it was around the 15th of June we wanted a low to occur, and then around the 21st to the 23rd, or 20th to 23rd, which is our seasonal change, I wanted another low to occur. And I'll go and explain why I thought that very soon. But I thought maybe we'll just head over to the chart, see what actually unfolded. There's a few changes I've made, so I was expecting possible low here. If we move over to the chart, we did get a high in this space, so I did update it to a high, so let's get rid of that. So again, the date was good. I just had the polarity flip wrong. And then we move over to our X-date, and we look for that time frame we were looking, which was the 15th, roughly around the 14th to 15th was our time frame. The market did move up into the 16th and hit a top. And then the market rolled over into the 21st, 22nd, 23rd, it hit a bottom. And then I'll just go ahead and mark this on our chart now with a symbol just so we can track it. And this indeed was a seasonal trend change. Now everyone's got their own assumption on what actually occurs here, what exactly it means to change to trade the change of trend. But I just wanted to show you an update of this. I got it wrong. I was hoping for a low in here. When the market started to fall down, I really thought that we would fall down lower into this period and then double bottom and hopefully see the run up. Now I'll go ahead and show you why I thought that in a second, but I do have some good news and some bad news. The good news is that I've updated the chart, we're tracking it now. The bad news is that we are following a new X-date, okay? Now these are long-term, well I shouldn't say long-term, these are medium-term forecasts, which means we're doing it over several months. So we do have to see how the market vibrates into this area. But I'll keep tracking the blue, red, and green arrows all the way out to here so that we can see what happens around our next X-date. So that's the bad news. We could have something dramatic occur in the markets around this date, but it goes along in the fact that we will also be tracking the next seasonal trend change. So I need to see what sort of things are happening in the market to see if we're going to be moving up or down into the next season. Again, if we're super over optimistic and the seasons change, then I need to be looking down. If we're super pessimistic and the seasons change, then I'll start looking up, because this is just how the cycle works. Okay, we could go through our seasons. So that's an update on that. Now to talk about why I thought that we would get a run lower and not a run higher into this X-date, and then another low into our June seasonal trend change. So I'm going to move over now to our forecast for the year. Again, I'm going to have to blur some of this out just for those people that pay, so no disrespect to them. So I'm going to blur some of it out for the free guys, and we'll see what happens. So this is our forecast here. Now, I don't have a drawing tool on my screen, so we're going to have to track the cursor. But we were watching this golden line, which is the forecast, and the brown line, which is the actual Dow data, okay? So as the market moved up at the start of the year, started to trend down, we got a perfect alignment with the low, which was the bank collapse, well, the banks were collapsing before the seasons changed, and then we started to move higher. Now it was around here, what was it, 20th of May or so, that I was looking for a low in the market to occur possibly around the 15th of June. And the reason for that is because we had this polarity flip, okay? You see how the cycle trend is moving higher, but the actual market data was moving lower. So I thought we'd get a polarity flip where the market moved lower into our X-date, and then we'd hit a low, and then we'd get a double bottom on our seasonal trend. But if we actually look at the dates here, it actually pretty much realigned with the forecast, the original forecast, where this polarity flip was only temporary, and then it started to advance higher again into our X-date, which occurred around the 15th to the 16th on the forecast. The market did then find a low, which the roadmap here says that 27th, but in this case we did find a low around the 23rd. Then we got our original bounce as per the forecast, and then prices were to trend lower. Prices have trended lower as per the forecast. I'm not going to go out any further than this, but I do suspect that prices are going to remain stagnant just for a little bit longer before advancing strongly. Now the next X-date that I've suggested is into September. Now that's a little bit different to the forecast on the Bitcoin market, because, let me just go ahead and bring that up now, because the Bitcoin market, we're following something slightly different on the Bitcoin market. So I'm going to be showing you two things today, and that is the squaring on Bitcoin, which I've shown you for well over 2-3 years now, Bitcoin squares, and we've also got our 90-day cycle. So I'm going to get a pencil just on here. So last time I spoke to you, this was our midpoint, and I said that if we can get a left translation top and not a left translation low, so luckily the market did advance higher right at the end, there's a very high chance that by the end of this cycle, that the low that eventually occurs is going to be higher than where it started. So it should be higher than this here, okay? So it should be higher than here. Now, what we have here is another low, which I started to forecast out from, which was another 90-day cycle. And we'll just use this temporarily just so we can watch what happens on the left-hand side of this midpoint here. Because if we get a high on the left-hand side of this translation, sorry, if we get a left-hand top, then that is a left translation top. And that means that then on the end of the cycle here, we should be then looking for a low that's higher than this low here, okay? So I know it's super messy. Let me go ahead and just delete this. So just to recap, a low should occur above here, and then a low should occur above here within these two periods, okay? So what does that mean? Well, that means that we should be looking for prices to fall into one of these 90-day Bitcoin cycles, okay? So that means that the market shouldn't just continue to indefinitely move higher. It should eventually find a peak, and that peak should then be followed by a decline in prices. And if we just use anything trading related, we could use ICT terminology, etc. You know, we could have this fair value gap pretty much closed up. So we could be probably looking for a low in here, or if we do any other form of analysis, for example, let's go ahead and pop a retracement on. Now we could be looking, yeah, definitely within this fair value gap if this is the top here, or if we go out even further. Let's go out even further just to see what we get if we go out here. 25% to 38.2%. If we could get a retracement again into this possible FVG here, okay? If it does fall lower, we do have a 50% down here now, down near the old low. So this low here was pretty much the 50% level now. So the market could advance down there, but it shouldn't break it, okay? So where does that lead us in the Bitcoin market, and what does this mean for the future? Well, I'll go into that in a second, but first of all, let's take a look at our Bitcoin squares. Now, this square, I'm not going to repeat what they are, but these are, they resonate directly with the price of Bitcoin. And the last time we spoke, I had highlighted several areas where these matched up perfectly. This is where we were last time I did an update on this. And I said that the market could fall to this one, or this one if they kept falling lower. Well, it did fall and hit this square perfectly before rebounding, came down and bounced it off again, and then tried to touch the lower one before we scooted higher, which was on our X-date, okay? So this is what we're watching for our X-date right here. And then the market scooted higher, came across the old top, which was a square, supported by the lower square, and then eventually it was met with resistance at the upper square right now. Now, speaking time-wise, I wouldn't be minding the market right now. I think that I did a Facebook post just the other day and I said, look for a top within the next 24 hours of this bar here. The market did decline. It only declined into the square below before advancing. I wouldn't be buying here, guys. I wouldn't be buying at all, personally. We've got another turn date approaching any minute now, and the market might just go up and touch it before reversing again. So just keep that in mind. There is a high chance that the market is going to reverse right here, okay? So I'm going to put this out very soon, but I'm looking for a reversal right now, anytime right now. So another one, just boom, and then down. That's it, simple as that. Oh. So where does that make us look to the future? So just want to finish up this video right now. I just want to do a quick update. I can be looking for this FVG. This is on a daily chart, so it's not the smaller FVGs or anything, to be filled. I do want to see price fall. I want to see it fall above this low here that had occurred on the 11th of the 5th. Ideally within this range of around, let's say 30,000 to 27,000, okay? That would be ideal. And then if it does find a left or a right translation top, we've got to see how this plays out. Then we would be watching to see how it occurs in this square here. So the ideal situation, okay, for the bulls, the ideal situation is that we get a top on this side, the market comes down and then goes up and then down like that, okay? That should put us at a low that's higher than this one, also with a left translation top. We ignore the right translation of this midpoint here because it is then finding its higher low. I know that's very confusing, but I've done several videos on how to look at this 90-day Bitcoin cycle. So we just keep tracking it. It will play out indefinitely until the cycle changes, but it's not going to change. So yeah, that's all I have. I just wanted to get that out, and I think that everything's going according to plan. We're going to start now watching our next X-date, which is going to occur in September for our next low. Okay, so this is the X-date for Bitcoin, and we've also got our X-date for the Dow Jones, which we're tracking. But if everything goes according to plan, Bitcoin is likely to fall, not dramatically, but it is likely to fall before rising again over the course of the year. Whereas the Dow Jones is likely to continue rising after it gets its next lows. Okay, the bias for the Dow Jones is up. The bias for Bitcoin is sideways down and then up at the end of the year. That is where we are. That's just my update, and I hope this serves you well. Any questions down below, and I'll talk to you soon.